Oh, look, it's the playoffs, David. It's time for Bring It In, which isn't really our quarantine show anymore. It's a Zoom show, no longer from strict quarantine because we're immunized. Yay, that's good.
I think we can call it formally from quarantine show.
Formally from quarantine.
The show formally from quarantine.
Yeah. Playoffs. Did you watch every second of every game, or did you miss any? You didn't.
I missed. This is going to upset at least one of our viewers, but my wife had a best friend from high school in town. She lives in Los Angeles. And if you come in to visit me, we're taking you to the Sam Pearl.
Yeah.
Our home away from home, our paradise. And so the time slot was when the Knicks played the Hawks. So I knew it was going to be an amazing game.
Yeah.
And I did catch the end of it, but I was in paradise for 2 hours, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But I did see most every second of every other game.
I watched I watched a ton of basketball this weekend, but very strange DVR games. We're trying to catch some interesting things and while having a life. And I watched the Blazer game literally from like 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. No, recommended. I woke up confused. I don't even know what happened. But here we go. You just published a little bunch of observations from the weekend, and I'm a known public Blazers fan, but it is you, sir, David Thorpe, who says that the title favorites today are what? What did you say? What's going on?
So if we look at the season from only the weekend, I would not put the Blazers one. I'd probably put the Nets one. That's why they're number 2. But we have to look at everything that's happened to this point and then factor in what happened over the weekend. I don't know when Donovan Mitchell is coming back to you. I don't think they do. There's lots of drama going on in Utah. So I can't pick the Jazz without Donovan Mitchell. I don't care they lost a game. That doesn't matter to me so much. I can't pick the Clippers. They don't care. Why would I care when they don't care? They don't play like they're really desperate to win a game. I certainly can't pick the Lakers. Anthony Davis was really bad. Yeah, he'll probably get better. They're playing a very good team and now have to win 4 of 6. LeBron didn't look like LeBron, but I can't pick Phoenix because CP3 can't dribble the ball anymore after what happened in his game. He got hurt. Milwaukee is the same thing that they've been for 3 years now, only they changed a couple of players' names. Drew Holiday's better than Eric Bledsoe, and they won. Congratulations. But I would have rather them lost playing amazing than win playing the same they've always played. So Portland looks fantastic. Their offense has been great now for a month straight. We know how good they are when healthy, right? That's been the issue. But Nurk looks completely healthy to me. They're playing a very inferior opponent in round 1 because of injuries, to be fair to the Nuggets. Well, why not pick Dame Lillard, who's going to be first All-NBA for the 3rd time in his career, with Big Nurk inside, and their depth is coming. Melo played great. Simons is the world's best shooter. Yeah, I mean, after one game, I like the road they have in front of them. I like the way they're playing. I mean, certainly Brooklyn and Philadelphia are right there too. But they have to play each other. If Donovan Mitchell plays great in game 2 and looks healthy, I'll have a different power ranking. But based on right now, that's what I see. Tell me I'm crazy.
I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna go. That's great. I was surprised to see your rankings, but I'm like, yeah, let's go with that. That sounds fantastic. Okay, let's go. There's so much interesting stuff to talk about. Let's go through series by series. You have, to me, the biggest takeaway from what you saw over the weekend was that you don't think the Bucks are contenders anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I was so disappointed in the way Giannis played. He really bad decision making, and I don't just mean big picture things. He just made a lot of stupid plays, and maybe you just try too hard, which does happen sometimes. Even though he has said publicly he's not going to do that anymore. So my issue is he's aware of his problem, that he gets too anxious, too caught up in the moment, and then he did exactly the same thing he's always done, which is only fitting because the whole team did. They spread the floor. They don't really do much we call weak side action, pin down, flare screen, crossing. They just kind of throw it to the guy they want to play bully ball with, and they go play, and then they kick it out, whatever. Like James Harden did for Houston, but they don't have James Harden on their team. And defensively, they still can't guard the 3. I thought they would. They were terrible.
This is surprising. Like in the last 15 games, they're the worst team in the NBA at defending the 3-point line.
Right, in terms of percentage. They gave up 40% from 3, and you could argue some of that was luck. Of course it was luck. But when it happens in game 16, which is the first game in the playoffs against the Miami Heat, I'm a little more worried. And if it happens in game 17, like this is a trend. They can change the trend. They're welcome to. We just haven't seen it yet, right? So, but the biggest thing for me is I just think teams are going to do what they've been doing against them. And Miami's just okay. Like I thought Milwaukee would win that series. And it went down to the wire. And you're allowed to get better over the playoffs. I think typically we see that. And so let's see if they have something much better in game 2. Maybe I'll feel differently. But to me, it's the same old, same old. And I did not expect that. I thought I'd see progress, and I didn't.
Okay. Mavericks Clippers. You have a little. You're seeing something in Luka's teammates, like he's putting some royal jelly into them or something like that.
Yeah, I think Gerard and I may have said this on Friday. I'm sure we did. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but Luka is LeBron James. He's not quite as good at that age, although, to be very fair, at rookies, LeBron had never led his team to a European championship, an ACB and a EuroLeague title. Maybe he could have. I actually watched LeBron in high school. I'm not sure he could have, but maybe he could have, right? It's a different world when you play pros when you're younger. But Luka right now is pretty much what LeBron was at this age. And he was good enough to take a less talented team very, very far. And I think Luka's going to win 2 games in any series he plays in. He's just phenomenal. And when he shoots it great, you're just fucked. Yeah, what are you going to do against him? You can't guard him because you can't force him to drive because he's too good. And so if he's making a step back threes, he's kind of like Harden that way. And Carlisle's a genius, and their opponents are just uninspired. So, yeah, Luka himself, though, we're looking at one of the greatest players of all time, and he's nowhere near his peak, which is kind of scary.
So the Clippers shot 41% from 3 this year, best in the league, one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And only shot 28% in this game. You went back and watched them. Was it Mavericks defense or was it just luck?
Yeah, so it was both. Right, I don't remember. You have the chart on my article. I think maybe it was 14 contested, 15 open or wide open.
11 were wide open, 14 were open.
Okay, so they just missed open shots, but I thought the Mavs did a lot of really good things too. And
I think this is our first pie chart in TrueHoop history, by the way.
So that's more than half their misses were shots you expect to make. And they missed all of those. But Dallas did, that pie chart shows almost half contested. It could have shown a quarter. Right. Dallas did a good job. They forced them to take some tough shots. And but I think, you always hear coaches talk about defense feeds their offense. Doc Rivers said it on the game yesterday that, we only focused on defense. I'm not sure that's true. That's what he said. I don't know how accurate that is. I know that the Clippers didn't really play inspired defense, I didn't think. And they didn't really shoot well. I'm not sure they're connected or not. I just know you would think this team dying to show what last year was a fluke. And it doesn't mean you have to shoot well. I didn't see the effort. I didn't see the intensity. It looked to me like they think they're going to be fine no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, good luck with that because Luka is maybe better than anyone you have. I know you have Kawhi. I know you have Paul George. Luka might be better. It's in the conversation for sure.
Yeah, there were 2. Usually teams don't turn it on in the playoffs. We talk about this a lot. But there were 2 reasons I think this team might. One is Ty Lue's history as defensive coach, where his teams have turned it on. And 2 is Kawhi's been the load management guy, right? Like he's been the guy who is much more intense in the playoffs and plays every game. But expecting to turn it on is tough, right? It's just those are habits too, right? How intensely you play is also something to practice, I guess.
Well, so to remind you of a sore point for you, when you called me last year at 1 a.m. or whatever it was, when Portland beat LA in game 1, and I don't know if you were giddy, but as giddy as you might get at 1 a.m. sober. And I delivered the news that I didn't think it was going to go well for you. Mm-hmm. But I got that because I thought LA really competed their ass off. They just didn't play very well. Mm-hmm. And so that plays. I don't think it's so easy to turn on that electricity. It's not like a real light switch, right? There was an identity that the Lakers had last year, all year, excuse me. And they had it in the postseason, and we obviously won a championship. I don't know what the Clippers' identity is. I tell you what, it's not. It's not what the Lakers was last year.
Right.
And so that can change. I'm a big believer in that. I really think, because I've witnessed it, teams can find a groove. They can find a rhythm, a connection, right? During the postseason, if they're talented enough. You can't just have the connection. You have to be talented enough too. I'm just not confident they're going to find it, Henry.
What are the odds that the Clippers win this series?
I would say it's below 50 now.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think Luka's got at least one more win with his eyes closed. He's just that good. And I don't think the Clippers have a bunch of easy answers. Now, they shoot great every time, and they're capable of that. They're the best shooting team in the league. But at 2-0 or 0-2 or 1-2, there's a chance for real drama again. And I don't know that. Why would we think that they? Not because they're the Clippers franchise. This collective group of men has never shown us the ability to be galvanized behind something and win a bunch of games against really good opponents. We've never seen it. Doesn't mean it can't happen. We just have never seen it, right? The teams that have won the most games in streaks this year, the Jazz have like 3 of them. So I believe they can figure it out. I think the Sixers have a long streak. When have the Clippers ever done that? So yeah, I have a hard time believing in them.
This is wild. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But if the Clippers lose in round 1 after it's like they built this giant factory and now it's trying to produce a championship and it's just not good.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to we've said this before. Like, I think Kawhi screwed up. And I understand playing with family, but I also understand I have a family. Families understand that, hey, I'm going to go to work for a few more years north of the border, try to win us a couple more rings, and I can live the rest of my life near you guys. Unless there was a health issue with family, then I take back everything. If you want to be with someone who's sick, or that's different, but I don't think that's the case. I think that he thought, yep, I'll get Paul George and we're going to go ahead and win the West. And it doesn't work that way. You chose to leave an amazing team that returned to everybody. And last year was very, very good without you. Yes, they lost in this crazy bubble, but I think we would favor them if Kawhi was there. If Kawhi was there, it'd have been Raptors, Lakers in the finals. And I don't know who would have won that one. And so I think he screwed up because it's really hard to manufacture what the Raptors manufactured. And he's finding out firsthand how hard that is.
There's some terrible lesson in there for everybody. Okay. The Nets, actually, this cracked me up. You make this funny point about like the Nets have a super basic offense and a super basic defense. And it really works on offense, but not on defense. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I don't really enjoy watching the Nets play. I don't like watch the Wizards play. I don't like ISO-based teams. The difference is they have 3 of the most incredible offensive players of all time, right? And what makes them so incredible is they all understand it's not about me, it's about we. So you can't just be about we and be a great offensive player because no one will guard you. They understand that balance of it's about me until you send a second person. And then if I can still get off a great shot, which for Durant is pretty much any shot, fine. If I can't, I'm happy to pass the ball to a great shooter here or there, a great cutter, or one of my 2 all-star teammates. Defensively, it's all about me. Hey, I'm with my guy over here, and he ain't scoring. And I don't think that's going to play well going forward. Like, you're not going to beat the Sixers that way. So, not that easily anyway, until you understand you have to bring a crowd to the ball. And then you've got to scramble. If you want to see how to guard in the NBA, watch the Heat in game 1 against the Bucks. I was so impressed with how they guarded Milwaukee. They lost the game, but I was so impressed with what they were doing. I called some young coaches. Sorry, Caleb. I didn't want to call everyone I knew. I called some young coaches that I mentor and told them exactly that. Like, I didn't call them. I left them a WhatsApp message. Guys, watch this on Synergy and study it because Miami understands it's about us. And so if someone beats me off the dribble, I'm waiting for help. And as that help arrives, I'm peeling off the guy I was guarding and got beat by, and I'm going to find someone else. I might be going to guard the guy that you were guarding, but you left to help me, or someone else might be helping that guy. I peel off to find the third guy. Like, that's how you're supposed to play. And no surprise Young Spoelstra's team is playing this way, right? The Nets don't do that. James Harden, and I mean this sincerely, I'm not convinced he knows. If you ask him after the game, who are you guarding tonight? I'm not sure he would know. But he wasn't guarding anybody, okay? But he wasn't even quote unquote guarding anyone. And I don't like those habits because they're going to have to at some point. I'm wrong if they score 130 points per 100 possessions going forward and win a championship, because then it won't matter. But I don't think they're going to do that against some of the teams they have to play. That doesn't mean they can't figure it out. It hasn't happened all season, but those guys are capable of a lot more. I do think Joe Harris played physically. If you watched early in the game, he was bumping dudes hard. Either that's a personal thing he wanted to do, or that was in their game scouting notes. Like, hey, let's bump their cutters. These are things that teams talk about doing. Almost like a hockey team, establish some physical presence. Joe Harris was doing it. I didn't see the other guys doing it. So to me, Steve Nash should be talking about, we've got to really up our effort on defense and our intensity, our focus, and hopefully they won't laugh at him, because they might. They just might, like, we don't worry about defense. We're the Nets. And I think that's going to bottom of the ass if they don't.
Well, Nate, like, I guess there are examples that I can't think of right now, but basically where you haven't had practice time together, you got players back from injury, and the winning move is just to keep it super simple so that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. Like, is there an argument for their very basic defense that just because they haven't had time to work on anything else?
Yeah, there is an argument. And there's an argument, too, to let's get game one as a win and then maybe innovate a little bit or try some things. But I know their coaching staff has the U. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're just going to try to keep it basic and then hope to outscore you. And I don't have confidence it's going to work. I mean, I think they're going to win this series, probably the next one. But after that, I'm not convinced that they're going to win.
Like, the Celtics are so, like, injured and scrappy, and it worked for a while. Like, for a while, I was like, oh my gosh, they might actually make some noise here. But you made the point that they're not a playoff worthy roster.
Yeah. So keep in mind that I'm taking all these notes during the games on my BlackBerry as it's happening live. So I don't know what's going to happen when, by the end of the game. But during the game, I'm like, yeah, this looks good, but it's just not going to last. It's just too hard. Yeah. You can't. The game is 48 minutes. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's realistic. Yes, Kevin, they exist. I normally have a chat on. I don't know why it's on now. I typically don't have it on. So yeah. I mean, that's just how, whatever. So let's just do this. If the Brooklyn Nets are going to be Eastern Conference champions, they're going to have to get through probably Philadelphia, right? And that is not an easy team to score on. I don't care who you are. They have a presence inside. Tybule is a hell of a defender, like a nightmare defender. Tobias Harris is good. He's a good player. They have to up their effort and not be casual. I'll say this about Brooklyn and not the Clippers. I get the impression that those guys want to win and will allow themselves to be coached and pushed and by each other or the coaching staff. I like Brooklyn's disposition. I like their attitude. I have nothing negative to say, but they beat a Boston team that would not make the playoffs as currently constructed. There's a bunch of guys on the court for them that are not players that would ever play for a playoff team because of injury. That's the case. Same as Denver to a lesser respect. And so Brooklyn hasn't impressed me yet. It's not their fault. It's not their fault that Celtics are hurt. And I did have number 2 on my list just because I'm so disappointed in everyone else, and their talent is really good.
Who's the worst? This is maybe a mean question, but who's the worst player getting minutes in the playoffs?
I mean, I don't think Austin Rivers is any good, but I don't think he's the worst player. It's going to be someone. A couple of guys in the Celtics are pretty bad.
I think you're not big on Romeo Langford.
Yeah, I'm not now. But yeah, I think that who did I first say? Oh, who's the first name I said?
Austin Rivers.
Oh, Austin Rivers. Yeah, he is someone that is just eternally disappointing to me.
Yeah.
So he shot 38% this year when he got there. I'm not the only one disappointed. It's not like he's being paid a bunch of money anymore. Yeah. And he got paid by his dad. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had some talent that was never really developed it. Oh yeah, Elfrid Payton. Good job, Gerard. Yeah. I wrote about that. Did you include it?
Yeah, we're not there. Yeah, it's in there. Yeah.
Okay. He got 8 minutes more than he should have got.
Yeah. Okay, now we're talking about the Blazers and the Nuggets, and this is a good time. There's been some joking in the chat about David sending me Morse code because he's a BlackBerry, but what he actually sent me before the series started was some handwritten notes, which shows his research, and I think Judy's able to put that on the screen here. Oh yeah, I'm loving this.
You can leave it up there. So if you look at the top, I have circled that. So first of all, and I told this I did Zach Lowe's show, and that's why I have all these notes. Because not like I wrote about all these games before the series started. So leave it up there, Judy, if you don't mind, please. I only look at the last 15 games for every team, Henry, because I felt
when you write notes about it, do you write them in English?
Oh, I have my own language. Yeah. So the season was, I think I told Gerard this, the season was so short. Like these people can't remember anything. So I don't really care what you did in December, January. So last 15 games, Portland, if you look at the top circle, turnover percentage, they were they were 10%, which is first in the league last 15 games. Okay, that's their turnover rate. And Denver is third in points off of turnovers, 18.5. Well, that's advantage Portland. Denver needs those points in part because they're missing guys, but Portland doesn't turn the ball very much. Do you remember what they did for this game, by the way?
No.
For turnovers? I think it was really low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really low. So they
don't pass very much. That's part of the reason.
Right. Exactly. That helps. So sure, there's a reason for it. Yeah. So Denver against like the Jazz might be better because Utah is very turnover prone. So and then you see I have a circle on the bottom there. Neither team drives much. Well, the reason why, look at all those players. Simmons at 47%, CJ 44%, Melo 52, Dame at 44, Powell 58. Right, Roko's at 35, and Nurk and Ennis can shoot, which I wrote. They just typically don't. So they don't have to keep driving and driving. Those guys are ready to shoot it when they can, right? You'll see a note on the left side, which is the Portland side. The Blazers, the Nuggets like to run an early drag screen. So a drag screen would be, so I'm pushing the ball down the court. Jokic is trailing. So a drag screen would be a later screen at the top. You don't come from the bottom of the basket. You're coming from the other side of the court. Mm-hmm. And then they'll run a screen and roll or a screen and pop with Campazzo. It's a very European thing, so he's used to doing that. And Jokic. And I have in there Nurk bodies the Joker very well. So my point on that is if you just start the Joker down low, that's advantage Nurk, right? But when you bring him from the top, play pick and pop with that early drag, that's good for Portland. And I put it on, that's good for Denver. I put on the Portland side because Portland needs to have a plan for that. Because if you let Joker just attack from the perimeter, which is rare for bigs, by the way, that's an issue for them. And then you'll see I have a circle on the other side that he's better on the perimeter versus Nurkic on offense.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a play. I see an asterisk on the right side of the floor on the court, on that piece of paper. DHO on one side. So they run a DHO on one side and a stagger screen for Rivers, but it's actually a decoy for MPJ. So a stagger screen is, let's say Rivers comes off two screens. It would be he'd come off MPJ and then he'd come off Joker. Right? There was a DHO on one side of the court. I know this is all Chinese to you, but I promise you it makes sense. So Rivers would come off the MPJ screen.
What does DHO mean, David?
Dribble handoff. Sorry.
Dribble handoff.
Yeah, sorry about that. So then Rivers comes off the first screen. If he's wide open, you throw it to him for a layup because he's at the basket. But he typically wouldn't be that wide open. And then after MPJ screens for Rivers, then he comes off a screen for Jokic. And meanwhile, there's a DH on the other side that could turn and score if you're more worried about MPJ on the other end. It's a nice action that Portland need to make sure they did a good job of, and I thought they did. And then the other thing I have circled is Dozier at 27%, Millsap at 24%, Aaron Gordon 27%, Joker 28% from three. You're not going to guard those guys. And that really clogs up your offense, right? If you're not guarding those guys. So yeah, that's just this is how my brain works. Sorry.
No, this is the point. Is like there's some beautiful mind stuff going on here, and people. Today's the day that people are going to be saying like, "What, David? doing some drink. What's he drinking? Saying the Blazers are going to win the championship. Well, this is the kind of work that's going into it. There was as someone who's watched a lot of Blazers this year, there was some new stuff to my eyes. I don't know how to describe it properly, but like when Dame was on the bench, there was Anthony Simons, Carmelo Anthony, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, just spacing and movement in a way where I just was like, oh my gosh, I don't totally understand what's happening right now, but there are opportunities for wide open shots everywhere. And that's what really made me feel like, wow, without Dame in the game, this is, I think you noted they had 133 points per 100 possessions in this game, which is, would be record setting. That looks like why to me.
They led the last 15 games, they led the NBA in points per possession at 122.
Yeah.
So this was 133. And part of Denver's issue is they have players on the court that shouldn't be in the playoff game or shouldn't get a lot of time in a playoff game. Campazzo is starting. He's a nice bench player, I think, but he's starting. Monte Morris has been injured. He's back now, but I don't think he's quite there yet. So Denver's got listen, Denver has Murray and Will Barton. Like they probably would have been number one. They probably would beat Portland, in my opinion, in game one anyway. And I would have picked them number one to win the championship. They just don't have those guys anymore, We'll see.
I'll tell you this. One other big takeaway from the game was I think it's hard emotionally to be the injured star of a team. To me, it's always a little weird. Like, do you let them have the spotlight or do you stick yourself in there? And how do you do it in a way that isn't creepy? And I thought Jamal Murray, big yellow trucker hat, is the correct answer. He was just the biggest cheerleader in the world. And he was like all smiles. I was like, this is how you do it. This is how to be an injured star who helps his team win. It didn't work in game one, but beautiful. I thought beautiful leadership from Jamal Murray. He must be dealing with a very frustrating time of his life.
I'm going to say one thing on this. I agree with you totally. When Patrick Beverley ran over Russell Westbrook, and I think he tore his ACL, if I remember, which is a weird. Normally you tear your ACL by twisting and turning, but he got trucked and it tore his ACL. Pat Beverley is some superhuman man. Oh, it was a meniscus. Okay. So Westbrook gets hurt. It's game 3 of round 1. The Thunder had won the West, 60 wins. This was the year after they traded Harden. Literally they traded at the beginning of that year. Mm-hmm. So they're number 1 in the West. They lost the Heat in Miami late in the season, a great game. And I thought the Thunder would win a championship, and they thought they would win a championship. And Westbrook goes down in game 3. They win game 3. And he never sits with the team again. They end up beating the Rockets in 6. They lost games 4 and 5 and won game 6. Russell Westbrook sat up in the stands, and then they played Memphis. Mm-hmm. And they won game 1 against Memphis, lost 4 straight after that. And Westbrook sat in the luxury box. And I thought, it's so fucked up. Now, weird. Someone said to me, well, maybe he could risk the injury with his knee. Completely understand that. I don't agree. Put him in row 2 or 3. There's a way to get him where teammates can see him. But the only people who saw him were those of us watching on TV. And that's why I love so much what you pointed out to me, because I noticed that with Jamal. Like he did everything he could except check in a game.
Yeah.
I love that.
And he was just all sunshine. It was just all sunshine. Like he was just excited for his guys. Yeah.
Well, okay. No, we're not done with that. Because
we're not done.
You had an insightful point.
I did.
About Denver, and that can lead us into the Luka. So tell me what you saw.
I was kind of shocked. Probably I'm not the only one who noticed this, but they hung their heads. There was a point where like Jokic was on the bench, and then I think the Nuggets had a turnover, and like the way the cameras went, it was happened to be like a Jokic on the bench. And he was like, ah, and then MPJ in the game, I think who had made the mistake was like, ah, and I was just like, this is like it was a very winnable game. It's game 1, and maybe they're on the way to the championship right now. It just seemed like not that much adversity, not that much stress. And already with the I felt like they knew they were going to lose early. It felt early to me for that kind of hanging of heads.
I think they know they didn't have enough, and I don't think it was about that one game. I think they realized we're not going to have enough. Period. And the sentence is open. And now let's compare that to I don't know what's the next round of the series, because I want to talk about Dallas. But we can visit on that later. We can connect this later.
So I don't. Wait, did we not talk about Dallas? We already talked about Dallas.
Oh, so yeah. So going back, that's one of the reasons why. So Luka's teammates know they got Luka, right? So Jokic, who's their best player, knows we don't got enough. They feed off him because they know this guy knows we're not good enough. In Dallas are like, woo, we got Luka. Like it just makes everything so easy. It really makes everything so easy, just like LeBron's teammates said.
There's a weird thing about just like who handles the ball too. Like when Jokic is your best player, like, and you're down, and one concern is he might not touch the ball. Like it's a reality. It can be you can have important possessions where the guy who's supposed to save you just might not get it. Just because the way basketball works, right? Like when it's Luka starts the possession with the ball.
Right. Well, this is one reason why the Joker is the MVP, is because you really still can make sure he has it. Yeah. I think made notes of it. I think what you're saying is exactly right. And the Wizards, that's why don't have Philly number one. Washington should have won that game.
Hey, let's roll. That's our next one. Let's do it.
They lost their minds. I mean, it's going back to Saturday. I'm an old man. That's 2 days ago for me.
Woo.
But they lost their minds and just stopped doing all the things that were working. And it started with posting up Robin Lopez against Joel Embiid. Like, what are you doing? Robin Lopez has been playing great, but not against Joel Embiid in fourth quarter crunch time. Come on. Run a pinch post action, split action, whatever, but post split. But don't let him go one-on-one. Like, come on. You're trying to beat the Sixers here. What are you doing? And then Westbrook took a stupid wing jumper, which he's prone to do. And they had Bradley Beal on their team. Just get the ball to him every time, please, and let him be Luka, because that was one of my takeaways from the weekend. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question about that. That is not in the notes. So Bradley Beal is fucking amazing. If anyone who watched that game knows the Sixers were only worried about him, and he got 33 or 35. Pretty good.
Yeah,
he's incredible. So, 2 years ago, when John Wall and he were fighting, I suggested to you, and maybe even written this somewhere, I think they should trade Beal for CJ McCollum, Zach Collins, Anthony Simons, and a pick, and whatever else needed to do. It's worked out fine for both teams that they didn't. But what if they had, knowing Anthony Simons is the best athlete in the league that can shoot better than 40% from three, and he's like at 47 now, and he's 21?
21, yeah.
Yeah, almost 22. Like, what do you think? You think the Blazers are better off not having Beal right now? I'm not answering your question because I don't think it's so easy. What do you think about? Because Zach Collins obviously didn't work out, so it wouldn't be bad for the Wizards too.
Everything about that trade is a bet on who's going to be healthy, right? Like CJ McCollum started this year was like an MVP, and then
amazing,
got hurt. Bradley Beal's been hurt. Zach Collins has been hurt. Anthony Simons has not been hurt. But so to me, like I don't really know how to predict that, but that would be the ultimate prediction. I do rate though. To me, the Blazers are like, I think that they're going to be a Dame and CJ team, ride or die, until
right.
I think that's
that's what you said, and I get that spirit part of it. I do. I am telling you that Bradley Beal is better than CJ McCollum, and yes, they win at Anthony Simons, right? Zach Collins doesn't matter, but I'm just asking you, Mr. Abbott.
Yeah.
How would you like the Blazers if you're starting backcourt with Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard right now, today?
Well, today's a weird day to ask me because the Blazers happen to be NBA championship favorites today, David. So I felt fine with the way it was. Pretty good. No. Yeah. I guess I don't want to play the game of if healthy, right? Like Bradley Beal on one leg, I'd rather have two legs CJ for sure, which is what we have today, right? We can't wave a magic wand over Bradley Beal, right? He's going to have some good games and some bad games in these playoffs because
for sure.
He's wearing four compression sleeves.
Did you watch that Sixers game?
I watched a lot of it. Yeah.
So what did you think?
Actually, you made an interesting point there, which is the Wizards just can't. It's not a coincidence that Jason Tatum gets 50, and then the next game,
Tobias
Harris gets 37. Did he had 37? I think that's right.
Right.
Mostly in 2-pointers.
Yeah.
So that's and you've been high on Denny Avdija from the beginning, and he's and you think he could become the defender that they want in that situation, but Obviously not now. He's
and probably not next year, but yeah, he's a really agile, 6'9", 6'10" forward.
yeah.
That's the one thing that they've got to solve. Because I think I don't know if I wrote this or not. Maybe I tweeted it. I don't remember. But Scott Brooks, Tommy Shepard, like I like their future. Yeah. They've got to replace Russell at some point.
That's not like you wrote that. But like, how do you replace Russell Westbrook? Like, who else is like Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, but I'm thinking more of just they found an identity about how to play. Thomas Bryant is good.
Yeah,
like really good. Great offense. I thought he was Mo Spates. I was wrong. He's Mo Spates with a heartbeat to defend. This year he showed it. It was hurt, but he can really score. He's a center. Daniel Gafford's good. There was a play in this game where Gafford got the ball inside. It might have been an offensive rebound. It might have been a dish. I don't remember. But he was surrounded by really tall bad guys. And most young guys surrounded by really tall bad guys in the NBA don't score. They don't. And he did. And I thought, okay, like he's got that too. He's an athletic guy. Rui Hachimura looks like he should be what a New York Knicks player in the 90s looked like. Mm-hmm. With Pat Riley, just power. But he can make some threes. I don't think he's got much, they call it shit to the game. I don't think he's got a lot of that. That's fine. If you've got other guys that can do that kind of stuff. Bradley Beal's incredible. They're not going to be contenders. They got to do some major things for that to happen. Maybe it happens. But I see it. So they have a kernel of hope to be relevant. And you can even argue this year they're relevant. If they win game one, they're definitely relevant. So, yeah. And the Sixers, I think the Sixers are good. I'm worried about their offense. I'll continue to worry about their offense. But their defense is very, very good.
I can't believe Tobias Harris this year is much better than Tobias Harris last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Doc has done a great job of keeping things simple and getting them to have that identity of power. Like they play with like bullies. And with Joel Embiid on your team, you should. Yeah. They should play like bullies. But we talked about this with who was the example? Alec Burks. We'll get to the Knicks, I know.
Yeah, let's go right there. That's a great point.
Yeah. So Alec Burks is like Tobias Harris. Like you just got to have the right people around him. Alec Burks was almost like he was beat out by Corey Brewer a couple years ago from a 10-day in Sacramento. Dave Yeager went with Corey Brewer down the stretch when they were trying to make the playoffs as the 8th seed over Alec Burks, and now Alec Burks was their best player yesterday, 27 points. Yeah.
What part of that Alec Burks seems to be better than he used to be, but part of it is what is the situation they're putting him in that makes him so effective? Like, how is this working?
I mean, they're telling him to go score. He clearly is shooting better. I don't remember he shot from 3, but I think it was over 40 or close to it. He used to be, when he was first to the Utah Jazz, he was strictly a slasher. He couldn't shoot. Nobody could guard him though. He just couldn't shoot. And he has a better feel for, okay, this is, he's like Booker for Memphis and Clarkson for Utah. He's a scorer. Go score. And don't fret the misses and the inefficiency that happens sometimes. And maybe it's just, I know this coach likes me. It could just be that. Like, I know this coach likes me. And that is the case a lot of times where you feel like I can get after it, be brave, and not worry about a result because I have to be bad consistently for him to take me out. If I'm bad occasionally, he's not going to take me out because everyone's bad occasionally. Everyone strikes out sometimes, right? Everyone misses.
That was a wild game. I mean, with I think about a minute left, the Knicks were up 3, and it was just Madison Square Garden, the biggest audience from an NBA game to that point in more than a year, and the place is just dancing. I mean, just as excited as basketball fans get, and they lost. Like, oh my God! I was like, I'm like, even I got a little New York in here. I was like, oh, kind of exciting, and then I'm like, but maybe a little early, and then oh my gosh, the Hawks were just like clinical, and yeah, they lost.
Gerard probably will remember what I said to him on our show Friday, which was something along the lines of, I don't even give a fuck about New York in the playoffs. It's just a great narrative.
Yeah.
You got to beat the other guys. And the other guys are better than you, in my opinion. It doesn't mean the series won't go 7. I think Hollinger wrote, if you tabulate all their points that the Knicks and the Hawks scored for 72 games and how many points they gave up, there's a 1-point difference.
Wow.
And they have the exact same record. and they're a 4-5 seed. Like, this is going 7 games, right?
Yeah.
Unless there's an injury or someone just goes crazy or just terrible, it's likely to be. And when I say going 7, I mean like down to the wire. These are very, very close teams. But it's good to win game 1 when you're either team, especially the road team. I don't love that Trae Young was telling the crowd, like, I hate that shit. Just play, man. This ain't a one and done. Save it for game 7 and move on. I don't love that. Not that I think there's karma or whatever. I think humans, humans are roller coasters, okay? If you're going up, like, you're going to have to come down. It's not a roller coaster if it only goes up all the time. It's got to come down. Otherwise, it's not a roller coaster. Well, that's the way humans are, and that's the way this game is. And so it's great you're going up, Trey, but the more you do that, the steeper the fall is going to be. So I like the level playing field until the game 7 win, level playing court. Julius Randle had a lot of good looks. He just missed them. They betted him well. DeAndre Hunter, it's one of the stories of the weekend. DeAndre Hunter, if DeAndre Hunter is healthy all year, the Hawks are not a 5 seed. They're probably a 4 seed, maybe a 3 seed. Like, they're good. And he looked good physically. He didn't shoot great, 2 of 6, I think, but he looked athletically good. He's young.
He's a long dude, long, talented, athletic dude. And like, you're like, wow, who's that? Right.
And was cruising to a most improved. Cruising. Yeah. He may not have won, but he was such a better player than he was bad last year. And, he guarded, remember, Julius Randle averaged 37 a game, and there were 3 games against the Hawks.
Yeah.
So anyone with a pulse that can help keep him from doing that. And I think also John Collins, who guarded him plenty and did really poorly in the regular season. I think John felt like, I got to do better. And he did. He did better. But I still thought Julius just didn't play very well. And he put together a great season. Let's hope he does much better in game 2.
Okay, we have about a little more than 15 minutes left. We have 2 series to get to, and we want to talk to our friend, Gerard Hector. Okay, so quickly, this Suns-Lakers game was exciting. It was really fun to watch. And you make this point about the Suns seem to have a strategy of attacking quickly, which was particularly smart. Why do you say that?
Yeah, so I always say, I first started thinking about this when Thibodeau's Celtics teams were the best defensive team in the league. And I felt like it's like wrestling. I've never wrestled a boa constrictor. I don't like any snakes, I'm happy to say. But I know that when animals are caught, the best chance to get away is right away. Because the more you wrestle, they use that as leverage to constrict the air out of you. Well, that's what I felt Boston's teams did on defense. When you took the old pop line of good to great against a Celtics defense with Tom Thibodeau, you went from good to fucking awful. Because they were so good with their rotations. If you found a good shot, take it. You're not going to get another one. And that's exactly what summertime was against the Heat, okay, when they won in 2013, is that super fast Miami Heat defense where Chris Bosh was their center and LeBron and Dwayne Wade were on that team, by the way, and Chalmers. Yeah, you better get your first shot and let it go. Hope for the best. You're not going to get a second good look. Well, the Lakers have the best defense in the league. And so I felt Phoenix prioritized racing and getting early looks with hit-ahead passes, with guys racing the court, with early shots, with that in mind, including early post-ups. Let's not wrestle this snake for 24 seconds. They want the game to go fast anyway, to run those old guys, run LeBron down. And they're just better off doing that. So to me, it looked like it was highlighted in red on the grease board. Like, run early, race early, seal early, hit-ahead passes. These are words you would use to tell your team, throw it, push it. Let's get that pace going. You watch coaches do this. They're saying, let's go. That's what they mean when they're rolling their fingers that way. So, yeah, I thought it was smart for Phoenix to do that.
Here was my most sort of gripping observation of the whole weekend of basketball was, there was a story, there was a paper at Sloan called The Dwight Effect. It was about when Dwight Howard in his prime was in the lane. People just didn't drive in the lane. They just didn't try it. And it's hard to measure. It's hard to see. You might watch a whole game and not notice the Dwight Effect at all, but it was there. It was winning games for Dwight's teams, right? And there was a LeBron effect. I think there has been forever all over the court with every kind of play, right? People were a little less likely to contest him on the break, or a little less likely to go for the strip, or a little less likely to try to draw the foul, etc. Because he just kind of got his respect. And he's been, kind of a bossy, controlling guy to the whole league, right? He's very rough with the officials and whatever. And now all of a sudden I'm like, they're going at him in every way, all over the court. Now he's always been bigger, stronger, faster. Now he's, bigger, sometimes stronger, and not faster, right? And there are all these moments of, people trying to strip him, trying to, who was it on the break where LeBron was the one player back and was like, yeah, I got this. I'm putting my body right into LeBron freaking.
Oh, yeah. And
who was that?
I just went blank. And he finished. He made the shot.
He made it. I'm like, that wasn't how that went. That would have been a pass, right?
Yeah.
And there was somebody on the left side too, but or I forget who stripped him. I'm just like, this is like they're a little excited to play against LeBron right now. And then of course he hurt his shoulder and his ankle's already been hurting, and all of that to me feeds into like, everybody, have you learned the name DeAndre Ayton, right? Like, here's this very, very big man who can really move. And I don't know, maybe someone knows how to look it up, but like, what's the record for a number of times LeBron has had his shot blocked by one player in a series? Like, I think DeAndre Ayton is a candidate for that record right now. Because he's kind of looking, he's like, ooh, look at this. Here's a guy who can't jump like he used to. Like, let's go block a shot.
Do you know what Ayton was from the field yesterday?
No.
I think it was 10 of 11. Someone could tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 10 of 11. Yeah. That's what you want the first pick of the draft to do when you don't draft Luka and Trae Young. Yeah. Like, you better get backed. And he did that. Yeah. So
and he guarded Anthony Davis like a boss. Like, yeah.
And Davis, played terribly. Yeah, he did. He played terribly. I think making LeBron work is smart. It's what you want to do against like Steph Curry, right? You want them to have to play on both ends. And it didn't used to be the case because no matter what you did, LeBron wasn't wearing down. But this is father time, right? We'll see. They go down 2-0. We're going to see how old he might look.
There's a little bit. So also Devin Booker plays a little bit of a similar role to Damian Lillard in the Suns offense, but he's a lot bigger. I'm just noticing. I'm like, whoa, like this is a huge. I mean, he's
really good.
He's a long, skilled dude. And you're pointing out that the Lakers have been doubling him early, which is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, they started doubling him like they did Harden last year in the playoffs. I think the announcers may have said that, but they stopped doing it for a while because you get worn down. But it was clear they thought, well, we're not going to let this guy beat us by himself, even though he did have 30-some-odd points. It was great. But this is the Lakers. This is a great defensive team. So they're up against it right now. That's why they're not in my top 5.
All right. Maybe Gerard can join us to talk about the Grizzlies because I know that he wants to talk about the Grizzlies.
His favorite player made me – second favorite player, because I know his favorite player plays for the Nuggets, made me very happy when the rest of that silly group of guys was celebrating as if it was a play-in game, which means they were going on and not having to win 3 more games. JJJ was like, oh, no. I love that. He didn't break a smile. I'm a big believer in that. But no, you got work to do. It's a game. Human nature is you get up, that means you're coming down. Let's stay the course. So he didn't play great or anything, but I like that he didn't show emotion when the other guys wanted to celebrate. Hey, Rod.
Hello.
Rod, do you feel like I had this feeling yesterday? I'm like, we all went to school with a Dylan Brooks. You know what I mean? Like you're like, whoa, buddy. Okay, a little much. I'm like, okay. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Dylan that's an excellent way to describe it. He is that guy. Like, it's always on full tilt, and you're like, dude, like, just chill. Sometimes though, you need.
No, I'll drive. It's okay. You can get in my car. It's fine.
Right, and it's like, no, I'm gonna go with them instead. We might not make it. Like, but no, he was incredible, and like that game, like, because they outfought. They were more physical. They were more scrappy. The Jazz just looked sort of disconnected defensively a little bit, right? Like, the whole idea, like, oh, they didn't have Donovan Mitchell, that's the reason. Yes, of course, they're a title contender with Mitchell, but they were up 17 at one point. They can beat Memphis without Mitchell. Their margin for error is smaller, but they need to be better, and they just weren't. They just seemed very disconnected, and the Jazz killed everybody from 3 all season. They were atrocious from 3 last night.
Yeah.
And they gave the Grizzlies 19 more shot attempts at the rim. Like, well, and you lost by 3. So,
well, yeah, and don't exactly. Don't forget. Okay, so all Utah was bad. They hadn't played in a week. I thought this was an advantage for the Grizzlies, and I think the NBA did a good thing. I know the Jazz aren't happy about it, but this extra day of rest, the Jazz will play on a Wednesday.
Right.
So Memphis gets an extra day. I'm glad it'd be a more competitive series. Some teams don't have that luxury. So all the stuff you just said, Gerard, and Bane hits a 3 with no time on the clock to end the third quarter.
Yep.
And that's the difference in the game.
Yep.
Right. So as bad as they played without Donovan Mitchell, Booker had the game of his life. That's what happened. Now, on the other side, the Grizzlies have the future Mariano Rivera in the NBA for the next 10 years. The closer, because Ja Morant knows exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He is going to beat you to the second box, and he's going to hit the jumper unless no one's at the rim, then he's going to get a layup. And nobody can stop from doing that. And get used to it. We're going to see it for a decade.
But David,
he knows exactly how to use his talent.
I find watching Ja Morant to be like mysterious. I'm like, how does he? Why is he the only one who can make that work like that? Like why is this not what everybody does? What's his superpower here?
There is a few others. Their names were Russell Westbrook and Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose. Nobody could guard those guys, and they knew exactly where they wanted to go. The difference is he's better at that mid-range game than they were at this age. Yeah. That's Derrick Rose, by the way, made a huge shot to almost win the game. He didn't do that when he was a rookie and a second-year player. Those are hard mid-range shots. Ja's already got it. So does Luka, by the way. Guess what? And I don't know if it'll happen, but I tweeted this 3 months ago. Get used to seeing Ja versus Luka in a whole bunch of Western Conference Finals. Because those two guys are extraordinary players and they're primary ball handlers.
I was saying the thing that I noticed over the weekend was the playoff neophytes actually not being overawed by the stage and understanding, Coach, you always say, right? Like pros read the game, and how well players like Trey and Ja read the game. They're young. And they're good. Like Trae Young was like, oh, first quarter he was terrible. I'm like, I don't think he was terrible. I think he was just reading the game. I'm like, okay, this is how we're playing. Cool. He torched them the rest of the game. I was like, oh my God, they have no answer for this guy. And the next is an excellent defensive team. They have nothing. And Ja's the same way. It's like, oh, you're gonna jump out here? Cool. I'm just gonna slow play you. I know what's coming next. And it's like, these kids, man. I'm like, you guys are impressive, really impressive.
There's also like, we've written a lot on Truth about the Jazz, and like, 100%, I think they'd be my pick for this year's title. But it's, shooters everywhere. Mike Conley is cat quick, and Rudy Gobert, right? By the end of this game, with Rudy Gobert fell out, Mitchell not playing, it's like Bogdanovich and Royce O'Neal. And like, what is like, I was like, this is not the Utah Jazz. Like, this is the Utah Jazz Summer League team or something. Like
and they won the game.
Yeah, and they almost won the game, right? So Bogdanovich to me is the wild card when Jordan Clarkson sucks like he did last night. Because Bogdanovich can really score too. He just didn't know how to do it until halftime. But I think the bigger picture is, and Gerard was just talking about it, I mean, Devin Booker's not a little guy. Ja Morant's a little guy, right? Dame's a little guy. He's been great for a long time. But these guys that get in that middle of the floor, and we wrote about this a month ago, and make those plays, they're just so hard to keep out of the box. They're just so hard. They're so quick. And the court's so spread out, it's just really hard. But they have to know how to do it.
Yes.
Alfred Payton is quick and never learned how to use his quickness. When he was first in the league, he was so quick.
Yeah.
He never learned how to use his quickness the way Morant does. That's why Morant went number 2, and he's deserving of it. He's an extraordinary player. And
you can get to the middle of that floor, coaches, and once you're there, those guys have so much skill and talent at them, right? Are they going to go with the floater? Are they going to lob to the big man behind? And you as a defender, you're like, oh, shit. You're caught in this like middle land, and in the NBA, once you're like once you're unsure what you're gonna do, barbecue chicken, as Jack likes to say, right? Like you're getting cooked more oftentimes than not. I was also impressed, and we talked about them before. Phoenix, like for Booker and Ayton in their rookie, their first playoff game. Yeah. I mean, Booker ain't scared of nobody. Like he's one of those dudes, and when he gets on the floor, he's like, I'm the best player on the floor. Like that's how he carries himself. And Ayton destroyed Anthony Davis. I was like, Jesus, and if Davis looks like if they win that matchup, the Suns are winning that series for sure.
I want to forgive me, Henry. I want to hear Gerard's thoughts on the Nets because you watched them so much more than me.
Yeah,
it's hard when you play a terrible team.
Yeah, it is tough when you're playing because the Celtics, you said, even if they play terribly, they'll beat the Celtics because the Celtics are just not. It's Jason Tatum and just some dude. Right. But their defensive disposition.
Robert Williams is at your door right now.
Well, and no disrespect to Robert Williams, but like,
yeah, right. Well, how about that?
He was excellent. Second jumping and all. He was
Yeah.
outstanding. But I do think, Coach, yes, there is a lot of like, I'm locking down my man, but their disposition defensively was better in that game than it's been in quite some time. That's the point where I see them where they're like, ooh, they can do it for 5-minute stretches. I was like, oh, you did it for a quarter this game. Wow, that looked pretty good. Like, and I think if they can just keep building on that, because, you know, the offense is going to be what the offense is going to be, right? They're just going to figure some shit out. Sometimes it'll look great because they have moments where they look, ooh, you moved the ball well. Sometimes it's like Kyrie, just score a bucket. I need a bucket. Okay, I'll do that. Like, it just depends on what the game calls for.
Do you think Kyrie is skinny? Like really skinny?
No, I think Kyrie's actually stronger than we think he is.
Yeah, maybe stronger. I just
I don't think he's skinny. Well, it was Ramadan, so he had to go through that. But he looks okay to me. Like, I don't think he looks worse for wear or anything.
Yeah. Well, he'll be at eat. When does Ramadan end? Because he'll be at eat now.
He's fine now. Or he's back to like eating on normal.
Okay, because he looked really thin to me.
As Eric Farmer says, what are you going to do when Ramadan's over? I'm going to eat during daylight hours. What do you think? Like, that's what you do.
That's good. That's good. Durant was on cruise control. He's absurd.
And I thought defensively, Durant was really good in that game.
He was. Yeah.
There was a weird thing that happened this season where like Lou Williams has been an extraordinary scorer for a long time. And then they're just like, yeah, you can go to Hawks fine. But like, is he back? Is he back?
Oh, he was huge.
He was big. And I think, Coach, you know this, like, and Henry, you know this too. But for whatever reason, right, the playoffs, the basketball is just different. And we can go into a million reasons why it is. But the ability to create on the wing and create your own shot is such a valuable skill set to have. Like, yes, there are a million other things that are also valuable, but that thing is so valuable. And Lou's going to be 50 years old at some, Lifetime Fitness or whatever, killing dudes in pickup because that's just what he does, right? Like, so I think he loves those moments, right? He's like, guys, wait. So, as Henry said before, simple on offense, simple on defense. Lou, cook your guy one-on-one. I know how to do that. Right?
Well,
like,
he did it at the end of the third. He did the 2-for-1 and doubled down. He got the 2-pointer and then the 3-pointer. Yep. And then he scored, I think, the first 2 points in the fourth quarter. Like, he went on a personal 7-0 run when the Hawks were desperate to be right there. Yep. Those are really, I write about win a quarter by 10 or more, don't lose a quarter by 10 or more. And now you're 7-0 in this series after 90+% winning percentage in the last 2 years. But I haven't broken this down yet, but teams that end a quarter scoring and start the next quarter scoring, I want to see how that does because it's so hard to get really good runs.
I can tell you this. It doesn't make a lick of fucking difference. Like
just 4 or 5 points.
Like the time of the quarter when it happens, they did a big like it's just Doug Collins smoking reefer. Like it makes nothing.
I didn't know Doug Collins
so
said
crazy
that.
about this ending quarters thing, and it's nothing. It's totally made up.
I didn't know Doug Collins ever said that. Is he still working?
What's that?
Is Doug Collins still working?
Probably. I don't know. But he was the big like, oh, these are important minutes. It's like, no, all the minutes are equally important, Doug. Like it's just stops. It's just easier to understand and we see it and whatever. It's cool. But if you win the last minute of the quarter, the first minute of the quarter, the third minute of the quarter, same.
You got to win the whole quarter. That's the whole point. At the end of the, you got to win the quarter.
For sure, you have to do that. I thought, to me, watching the game this morning, because I went to the beach for the Knicks Hawks game. I thought when they came out of that third and Lou has a 5-0 run and then Lou comes out in a 7-0 run, I thought that gave some spirit. That's how, that to me.
Yeah. Well, look, things that are easy for us to notice have a better chance of being inspiring for sure, right? So like people, there's a buzzer at the end of the quarter and that's an exciting moment. I'll tell you what though, an interesting thing happened to me. Like in the beginning of the Sloan conference, they asked Daryl Morey basically like, what can data do to help with basketball? And he's like, well, some of these things you can really study and you really know, like for instance, the 2-for-1 was his example because it happens every quarter. It took a decade, but now these playoffs, every team knows about 32 seconds. You take a Devin Booker 40-footer because you're getting a free possession out of it, right? Like if you had used analytics, you would have known that a decade ago. Right, a valuable decade. There are other lessons like that right now that only some teams know. That's the reason you use analytics.
That point you made about Lou Williams and he can score again. That guy is so important for your team to have. That's what worries me about Philly and New York in the postseason. Who's their guy that can just go in his little mini? I mean, yes, MB, but you got to get him the ball and it's very different. Who can just go, hey, I need you to just get me 7 points real quick right now.
They
The
used to have
Knicks
Lou
have
Williams.
Rose. The Knicks have Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
The Knicks have Rose. Philly doesn't have anyone.
Wow, that worries me about them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're dangerously close to ending on time. Can you believe it? We had so much to cover today, and we pretty much did it. I'm a little proud of us. It's the playoffs.
Big games tonight. Big games tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Game 2 in Denver and then Miami, right? Miami, Milwaukee.
So we're scheduled for Friday. We might have an emergency show if something exciting happens.
Cool.
Nice.
All right. Thank you. Gotta go.